Welcome back to another episode of the Tipton Thrives Podcast. Today it is just me and Mayor Schmicker. How you doing today?
Today I'm doing pretty well. This is a Monday morning, about a week and a half before Christmas, so doing pretty well.
Good. Trying to wrap up the year strong.
Correct.
Awesome. So today we're gonna kind of just recap the year.
Yep.
There's been a lot that's happened over the past year, so sometimes it's easy to kind of get caught up in the current and not really reflect on what all has happened. And so our plan for today is kind of to look at the strategic plan or priorities that you set forth at the beginning of the year and kind of go back and recap each one and talk about the projects, initiatives that kind of tied along with each of those 6 pieces.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
The first one, get into it, was building the leadership team.
Yep.
So do you want to talk on that and, what progress has been made in 2025?
Yeah, so I would say that the rest of this list really isn't in a chronological order of importance, but to me, the number one priority, building that leadership team, was intentionally number one. For the City of Tipton, just making sure we had the right people in the right places, setting new expectations, really trying to establish that strong team that can be executors. We've really seen that from some of our newer department heads that we've brought on, being able to implement some new ideas, new practices for the City of Tipton. As we head into the future, though, so we're going to bring on board a Director of Special Projects. And as we are starting to get busier, the last 2 years, we've spent a lot of time making sure the foundation of the City of Tipton is strong and can really handle what we expect to be a pretty aggressive push for growth as that growth continues to head up north toward Kokomo. We want to make sure that growth is done in a way that helps celebrate the City of Tipton, its values and beliefs, so we don't see this community turn into something that we don't want it to be. So that individual is going to be a strong member of this team, and also with our planning department. So talking about building that foundation for the City of Tipton, creating that new city planning department, again, with updated and modern building standards, zoning practices, so we have the ability to be flexible as we head into the future. Again, making sure to confirm the values and beliefs, making sure building standards are such, but embracing some of the modern trends that we've seen in zoning and planning. So continuing to, I think, reinforce that this strong leadership team is important, and excited to bring on some of those new members.
Yeah, and we don't have to, I think we're not ready to make the announcement of who or who's filling this Director of Special Projects is, but can you talk about what exactly your vision for that position is? Because, it is kind of a broad term and title, but, what is this person going to be able to step in and do for you?
Yes, good question. So I think if you are a big community, this person would be specifically a redevelopment director, an economic development director, even a community development director. But being a small community, the challenge we have is with limited resources, I really need a Swiss Army knife, somebody who can do community development 1 hour of the day and then transition to redevelopment the next, and an economic development, quality of life initiatives, infrastructure. This person really needs to be a Swiss Army knife to be able to plug in to a variety of projects. So they're going to be accompanying me as we start to scope, and some of these projects we already have in the pipeline. We're just trying to lead them through transition to cross that start line and the finish line. So this person will do anything from economic development in our industrial park, commercial development on the east side of the City of Tipton. Housing is continuing to be a high priority for us, as it has been for the last 2 years. Art installation and investments, as we stood up to Tipton Arts Commission in August of 2024. Gateway signage. You can keep going down the list. So this person really will be someone who can plug in to a variety of projects, which is why we use a generic term or a vague term, so that they had the flexibility to do those.
Yeah. And on the planning side of things, I know we just sat down and talked about the plan for next year for this podcast specifically. Yep. And we are going to have an episode either probably January or February talking more in depth about the planning department and that switch. But for people wondering, what it's been talked about in the council meeting, so it is public knowledge, but just a brief overview of why moving it into the city's helm, and then also kind of what to expect there.
Yeah, I think starting with, this wasn't an adversarial position that we took to separate from the county. Actually, it was in recognition that both the city and the county are experiencing increased need from a planning perspective both from projects coming online to I think there's going to continue to be pressures from code enforcement. This is really out of recognition that we're both going to continue to be busier. And so for us to have teams that are specifically focused on the city of Tipton, for example, or Tipton County, that's what this was really at in recognition of. But we did start this process with an assessment of what our current building standards, our current processes, and what that delivered was our building standards, zoning practices were dated. Again, not a surprise. It's hard to sometimes when I was with the chamber, I talked about with business owners, sometimes you get lost in the business and you forget to work on the business. And government's the same way. So they came back with an assessment that our practices, our processes were vague, ambiguous, confusing. So we wanted to address that as we stood up this new planning department. But again, we're still going to work hand in hand with the county planning department because there's going to be obvious needs for that. But we're going to have a team that's specifically focused on the city of Tipton and how to make the successes become realized in 2026 and beyond.
Yeah, and you mentioned that there are things in the pipeline and things that are being worked on for the economic development, the housing and things that will, this kind of shift is planning for lack of a better word, planning for that uptick in volume that's expected over the next year or two. So. Awesome. So moving on down the list, and again, not any specific order, just how I have it listed here was the next strategic priority was reinvigorate the community pride. We obviously have one event that people probably familiar with recently and within the past couple of weeks, but what else was done throughout the year? And we can talk about the tree lighting ceremony as well.
Yeah. So other projects that qualify for this, the investment of the Trail Phase 2 project, the trail that ran down West Street is part of a larger infrastructure project, the new playground equipment at Tipton Parks, the successful bidding of the baseball project. All these are geared toward creating that sense of pride for Tipton. And I think the tree lighting is one of the great examples because it's more event-based, right? Some of these are project and but from a tree lighting perspective, what we wanted to do was to get the folks of Tipton to get really excited about their own community and to share pictures of their own community, to then create that FOMO experience, right? The fear of missing out. And now you see this, and we see continued pictures of this tree in a variety, whether someone is visiting town or before the middle school dance, people are taking pictures in front of this tree. It helps celebrate the place that they live. That's really what we're after, is to get folks in the city of Tipton to get excited about where they live. So when they have those conversations, they get to express that same level of excitement and to sort of be an ambassador, a cheerleader for their own community.
Yeah.
That I knew when we successfully accomplished that. And again, that's not one that's ever done. We're never done creating this sense of pride. But when we did achieve that general excitement, the successes will follow that because people want to be where excitement is happening. So the tree lighting is the most obvious example because it's frankly the closest one to us right now.
Yeah.
As we just celebrated a couple weeks ago, but there are other projects that helped us in that effort. At the parks usually are often examples, but even at Arts Commission, as we head into next year, there's going to be some community pride building components of that.
Yeah.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah. So transitioning, the next one on the list happened to be invest and create a vibrant arts ecosystem. And technically the formation of the Arts Commission was last year, but there were things that happened throughout the year on behalf of the Arts Commission and some investment there if you want to share some of those wins.
Yeah. So as the Arts Commission got its feet under itself, and they did apply for a grant that allowed for a visiting artist to come to Tipton to engage a variety of community meetings, opportunities for people to engage. They've also been in communication with the public library. We'd like to reinvest in that crosswalk that was there prior to the road getting resurfaced. There's other initiatives. Gateway signage continues to rank high. There's some buildings in downtown Tipton that we want to put some creative screening on as a way to sort of mask the vacancy that is there, but then also create that sense of excitement for those structures because they are consequential structures to downtown. So there's going to be a lot of, I think, creative investments in art that help celebrate what Tipton is currently, but then also setting the stage for what it could be. And then even through the Mayor's Youth Council, we had a group who their presentation was art specific throughout this community. And to see and hear them get excited about this deployment across the community, whether it's by the school corporation, in the park, downtown, neighborhoods, we're going to continue to see that. And in fact, I think they may be one of the groups who will help lead that to success. Mm-hmm. So certainly investing in that arts ecosystem. We already have a very strong, that was before I became mayor of the city of Tipton, but we're just trying to create some, I think, cohesion around celebrating arts, whether it is through murals in downtown or crosswalks, the community theater. A lot of these things already existed. We're just trying to create some standards and collective celebrating around it.
Yeah, and I believe I know the Arts Commission did put together their strategic plan this year. Correct. That was a big push for them. And I believe it is on the city's website. So if you do want to learn more about where the strategic vision of the Arts Commission and what they're planning to do, it is on the city's website for you to go check out. Okay, moving on to the next one, which, kind of ties into bringing the arts, but pursue creative economic development in Tipton.
Yeah, so as we've transitioned or tried to refocus our economic development strategies, and I'll speak specifically to the industrial park to start, but then come back downtown. In the industrial park, what we wanted to do was focus on two big categories. It's long been talked about that prospects who introduce new jobs to a community are more than likely going to be existing companies expanding. So being intentional to have conversations with our existing businesses, we've seen some investments from our industrial park partners already, and then asking the next question of how do we secure their next investment, and those conversations are ongoing. But then secondly, it was refocusing our economic development strategy from anything and everything to trying to hone in on the agricultural industry specifically. There's a lot of growth that's happening within the ag industry that feels like a natural fit given our own heritage in the ag industry. So we're actually in conversations and making some very great next steps to secure one of these partners in our industrial park. And that's where we want that creative economic development. It's not really waiting on them to come to us. We're trying to be a little more proactive and going to them to ask those questions. And we're going to have some successes to talk about in 2026, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And then coming to downtown, whether you're the city of Tipton or Rushville, Indiana, or you're downtown Indianapolis, downtowns are the greatest economic drivers of your communities. So we've been investing energies and dollars, time into how do we secure the next big step in downtown Tipton. I think we've had a lot of great successes, largely attributed to the backs of the private sector. We still have a lot of vacancy in our second stories. And so we're working with developers, we're working with downtown property owners to understand how do we start making significant progress in that effort to get more people living in the second stories. Because once we achieve that and we start seeing people walking on sidewalks on a Friday night, for example, that will help usher in that next big step for downtown Tipton. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to be creative in the sense that we understand what the problems are, and rather than just continue to chase new development and abandoning our challenges, our problems, we instead want to focus on the problems. How do we make the existing core of the city more efficient, more effective? And I think that's just a winning strategy for the city of Tipton.
Yeah, and we've seen obviously like with the group, the tie-on, they've came in and they've wanted to invest, and there are companies out there, developers, even just individual companies that are looking at these vacancies downtown that are wanting to invest in Tipton. It's how can we make it work strategically for everybody moving forward. Yep. So awesome. The next one on the list is support sustainable public safety strategies. And the obvious one here is talking about the public safety building right now. But can you go into more details about what's been done in the past year?
Yeah, so when I took office, we were down, I believe there's 3 patrolmen with the police department. And so we invested specific energies and time, I think even producing a video for recruitment purposes to help get our staffing back to full staff, full employment within the police department. Happy to say at this time we do have both on the police and fire full rosters for both respective departments for the city of Tipton, which I think is an incredible positive for us as we head into the future. Certainly, you mentioned the public safety building, getting that project not only scoped onto what the improvements are going to be, but then leading that through the bidding process is currently under construction at the moment. I think should be wrapped up, I'll say April of 2026. Now, weather is going to be a big determinant of that, but they continue to make great progress on the inside and the exterior. So it just improves the facility from a professional perspective, but then also a safety perspective as well. So really proud of that initiative too. It's been a topic that's long been talked about. So to actually make some concrete next steps that they're actually going to benefit from improvements is something else I'm excited about. And then also from a fleet perspective, again, it's probably not a topic that gets a lot of conversation because we're simply just buying vehicles, but we're transitioning the way we handle fleet within the city of Tipton. So it's more of a comprehensive strategy rather than a department by department strategy. And with that will come cost savings for the city of Tipton, which helps us to improve the average life of our vehicles within the city of Tipton, but then saves the taxpayers dollars when it comes to being good fiscal agents for taxpayers. So both the police and fire will benefit from that. And we continue to make improvements around that topic. Again, not a super exciting topic for folks to listen about, but we are analyzing everything that we're doing, or trying to analyze everything we're doing within the city of Tipton to make sure that we're being effective, we're being efficient with taxpayer dollars, so we can make the next best decision as we move into the future.
Yeah, and I think there's, 2 new officers that have been going through FTO or field training.
Yep.
And then they go to the academy at the start of the year, correct? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So that'll be, what is it, a 4 month process,
correct.
and then they should be back on the streets here.
Yeah. So then, regardless of who you are, when you're a new recruit and you haven't gone to the academy, you've got to go through that field training process and the academy.
Mm-hmm.
For the convenience of these 2 new officers, they came in and did their field training first. So by the time they graduate from the academy, they're ready to hit the roads on their own. So they've had some invaluable experience so far just being in this phase, which I think is really great for them, to be honest. So they'll be hitting the ground running probably I'm guessing, the end of the first quarter next year.
Nice. Okay, moving on. The next one, last one on the list of stuff that you highlighted at the beginning of the year, at least, is provide high quality infrastructure. And first things that come to mind are, the West Street and the East Street.
Yep.
But can we talk about that now?
Yeah, 2 very large projects for the city of Tipton, both started with respect to stormwater. We know as residents of the city of Tipton, water continues to be our biggest challenge, mainly getting it away from the city of Tipton. So to solve that, both on West Street and East Street, we knew we had to install initial trunk lines to the creek and then build north from there. West Street was our first effort in that, and frankly, we learned a lot, and it was one of the largest infrastructure projects that we had engaged in. Probably not the largest, but certainly one of the largest. And we touched nearly every utility as we came north of that. So I have to give kudos to the utilities who wanted eagerly to embrace or partner on that project, which then led to the opportunity for a new road. It's probably the nicest reconstructed road in the city of Tipton from a base perspective.
Yeah.
And then we also added the path on the east side, which was just a continuation of the trail network in the city of Tipton. So 2 things that we were really excited about from the path and then utility stormwater, but we updated all the water meters and service lines and even the sanitary sewer lines that we interacted with along the project. So that was a great success for the city of Tipton. Certainly took longer than we expected.
But it was more than just the road, like Reed Road. Right. Yes. And I think there was that public perception of, why is it taking so long to build a new road? Well, when you look at the bigger scope of the project, it was more of a utilities project than it was a road project.
Yep. Yeah. And because we had to very gingerly excavate along the project area, that's what took us the most time. And I'll say thank goodness we did. We found 2 gas mains that weren't marked, that weren't part of the network identified within the 811 service area. We still today don't know if those are live. We've communicated that, of course, to the gas company, but we treated them during the project as if they were live.
Yeah.
And those are, if we weren't careful in the excavation, this would have created evacuation circumstances for that area of town. So we did the project right in that we took our time to make sure that we didn't create any more challenges for that area. But yeah, understood that the project took longer than even we expected. So as we move forward, we're doing a better job staying in communication with our contractors, making sure to set expectations on project timelines so we can enforce and make these spaces available to the community faster. And that leads us into East Street. So a similar project where here we are in winter and we got our intermediate base down, which means it's not the final coat of asphalt, but is the first coat of asphalt. We set clear expectations on our contractor that they needed to have this done before winter fully set in. Now, winter snuck up on us this year. We've had historic snowfall, but nonetheless, we stayed committed to that. And when we had an opening for weather for asphalt to be applied, they came in and applied the asphalt as expected. So it's not the top coat, and we want to be clear to communicate that so people understand, but the top coat will be applied when the rest of the project is complete next spring. But we learned to set expectations, to be clear in those expectations, and we followed through with it.
Yeah, and beyond the West Street and East Street, there were some things that I don't want to say experimental, but trying to preserve the roads. I'm drawing a blank on the specific roads. My apologies, but where you tried a new surfacing or treatment of a road in hopes to expand the lifespan of that road without having to do a full rebuild, I guess, of that road. Can you talk about that?
Liquid Road, I think, was a specific product that we invested in. It was on North Street and Washington Street. And you're right, with the changing funding model for road repairs from the state, this has really challenged us to be more creative. And if we can't continue to rebuild, to mill and resurface streets, how do we preserve their life so they don't last 7 to 10 years, they last 10 to 15 years. And so, experimenting with some of those products that have been out on the market for a long time. In fact, one that I'm aware of was Conde Street, South Conde, had one of these products applied to it likely over a decade, almost a decade and a half ago, and the road is still in great condition. So we do have experience of doing these types of practices. I think now we're just finding we're returning to those practices to see if we can extend the life of these roads. Of course, have to qualify. There's what they call PASER ratings, and you can't apply it to a road that ranks from a 1 to a 4. They've got to be a rating higher than a 4. So we're just trying to identify how do we address the 1 through 4s and then also preserve the ones that are 5 to 7.
Gotcha. Any other big projects, either infrastructure or just overall that, we've missed or want to recap on? I know it's been a busy year, and I think a lot of it has been behind the scenes for you in terms of planning and projects, whether it's economic or housing or whatever, is not necessarily just it's going to get done in 1 month and then we're going to see stuff happen. So the floor is yours if there's anything that we missed or want to recap.
I would just say that we've been investing a lot of time making sure that we have the strong foundation for the City of Tipton, addressing some of those weaknesses that we know exist, and they exist in every community, and we'll continue to make progress on the variety of those topics. It's all been in support of this wave of development that we expect is coming. We know is coming. As you drive up 31 now into Tipton County, you can see the overpasses being developed in Hamilton County and the development that's following it. So as we head into 2026, we do expect this to be a strong year for the City of Tipton confirming projects. We've been working very hard on a variety of these prospects, and a few of these are going to get the green light heading into the first quarter, probably toward the latter part of the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to start to set an expectation of what we expect in the City of Tipton. We've been careful not to talk too much about these because there's any variety of reasons why a project can fail at the finish line. And we've seen those even here in recent history. It's a lot of times it's not anything the local government and local officials have done. So we've been a little mum to this point, but just trying to be very careful to honor the confidentiality of the prospects, at the same time not oversetting expectations, right? The worst thing we could do is oversell and underdeliver. So 2026 is going to be an exciting year. I'm looking forward to that, but we've been very intentional about trying to build this strong foundation, and there's continued to work on that effort, but excited about that.
Yeah, there's something to say about, yes, it's been 2 years since you've been in office. There is a strategy behind it. There's a plan behind it. And instead of just what you mentioned earlier about accepting anything and everything, right? There is a strategic plan behind the scenes happening, and it's starting to come to fruition moving into Q1 of 2026. So, any last words?
Just excited for 2026. We've really been working hard. We continue to make modifications within the department. So I'm excited for 2026. Like, it's hard to believe it's already been 2 years. And I think with the things that we have coming, there's some of these things that address long-term wants from the community, but then others help to set us on a good trajectory for the community. So yeah, just stay tuned. There's some excitement coming, and this is just a start. We're excited about it.
Awesome. And we will be back with regular Tipton Thrives podcast episodes every month now moving forward. We just spent some time planning out the year, and we have a lot of exciting guests, or ideas for guests at least, to come on the podcast next year. So one final plug, if you haven't followed the City of Tipton on YouTube yet, this podcast gets published there. Obviously, you're probably watching on Facebook, but it is on the city's YouTube, which also brings up another point about, which we didn't talk about, but accessibility and access to public meetings. Speaking of YouTube, is all these cities' public meetings are now broadcast to YouTube, correct?
Correct.
So that's something that was mandated by the state, but giving people more access to the city than ever before. So definitely go subscribe to the city. You just search City of Tipton on YouTube, and our channel will pop up. So
exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kegan, for sharing a little insight and kind of a recap into the year. And we'll be back in January with some exciting news.
Perfect. Thanks, Riley.